All right. Hello, everyone. Okay, it's back to our interview sessions. This is Chuck, and he's going to let us know what he's running for and answer some questions. So, why don't we start, Chuck, by you introducing yourself and why you're doing this?
Yeah, my name is Chuck Stradling, and I'm a resident of Tiny. I've been for the past 15 years, and I'm running for the mayor position. I think that it's the position where I best fit. I've been following council meetings now for the last 10 or 12 years, and keeping on top of what's happened in the community. So when it comes down to what what the issues are, I think I'm very, very familiar with them all, and I believe that I have the background and the experience necessary to deal with these issues. So.
Okay, well, that's great. So, we loosely go on the questionnaire. We'll just go over the major sections, and you can elaborate on anything you want. And I may throw in a question or two. So, first, we could kind of start with the general. Um, your involvement, what do you know about the sort of the municipal politics and your experience with it?
Well, as I say, I moved here in 2015, and I got involved originally with the council with George Cornell as mayor, and it too was a brand new council, pretty well. I think only one of the council members was reelected, and I started then. At that time, I created the La Fontaine Area Homeowners Association, LASHA, and I was president of I'm president. I was president of that. I created it back in November 2015, and from that time forward, I attended almost every council meeting, town hall meeting, any meetings that were being held, uh, and reporting back to our membership. When we started out with about 45, 50 members, and at one point we were well over 300 members. Uh, so yeah, I did a monthly newsletter, reported on council, all the issues, not just what was happening in our community, but what was happening in the broader tiny community. So the other issue I dealt with was the budgets. I dealt with at that time we'd go into the budget meetings. They had separate budget meetings, usually 3 or 4 days of meetings, and they have a giant budget book that you had to sit and go through. And they went through line by line. Unlike the current council, which seems to try and get through it in one day if they can. So I think that I did have that experience dealing with all the budget meetings. I did. One of the first things that I got concerned with was that they had developed a La Fontaine beach master plan, which included a whole lot of redevelopment of the beach park. And that plan was put on a shelf and had sat there since 2011. So I went to council and suggested that we set up an implementation committee. They agreed with me. We set up an implementation committee, which I chaired for 2 years. And anybody that goes to LaFontaine Beach now can see what the results were of that implementation committee. We've got a fully accessible playground, bocce court, pavilion, great accessible walkways throughout the park. Uh, Still a lot to be done. I'm a little, well, in fact, they just finished the washrooms a year ago. So, but that's something I still think there's a lot could be done for that park. Um, and after that was done, the committee was dissolved when the new election took place. in, I guess that was 2018. And when the new council came in, we formed the Parks and Recreation Master, our advisory committee, which I was elected chair of and chaired for 2 years, right up until the COVID situation, right through the COVID situation. Um, and set up, and through that committee, we set up a plan to do the renovations of all of the different master or major parks. Um, so that was quite a an undertaking, and then I left the that committee, reported to council on what we'd accomplished. Um, One of the key things that came out of it, I was starting to get concerned because they were talking about this new administration building, and we had a Parks and Recreation master plan that had almost $40 million worth of capital
Mhm.
improvements required. And here they were talking about spending another $8 or $10 million in a new administration building. Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. But anyway, I left that Parks and Recreation Committee, and that was my last involvement with council, although I still continued to follow the council meetings and provide the reports on council, and then started providing those to the Tiny Codger newsletter, which goes out twice a year to every resident in Tiny. So yeah, I've been very involved. When I was with Lasha, we organized many weed pulling campaigns to get rid of invasive weeds on the beach. Pulled out over 100 bags of knapweed. Uh, yeah, so yeah, no, it's I'm putting together a website right now that's going to list all of the things that's going to have a lot of information on things that we've accomplished and what I've accomplished as part of my Lash experience. So,
Okay, great. Uh, Tiny's official plan emphasizes environment focused. What does that mean to you?
well, as I think that the environment is one of the key things for Tiny. Uh, I think it should be paramount in any decision that's made for any projects going forward. Um, I strongly support that. In my background, I was one of the developers of the BOMA Best program for the Building Owners and Managers Association of Canada. And that environmental program has now been adopted. It's for commercial buildings, but it's still an environmental program. And it was adopted by the United States just within the last year. So um, I do have a very strong background in environment as director of property management for Go Transit. I had many dealings with the Ministry of Environment. We had a huge rail facility in Mimico, and oil spills were a commonplace occurrence. And I spent many a day down at the Mimico Creek with the pontoons trying to clean up the oil spills. So I do have experience with that and do realize the importance of the environment, especially here in Tiny where it's primarily farmland and cottage land, um, and the environment is critical. I went through uh, the experience in 2019 and 2020 with the gypsy moths. That
Mhm.
was quite an experience, and did a lot of delegations to council on what we should be doing to address that problem. I didn't get too far, but uh, it was uh, it was certainly an issue of that I consider to be environmentally sensitive, and I think our trees really need protection. I've got a beautiful blue spruce in front of my house that was devastated by those stupid little moths.
Hmm.
But anyway, that's I strongly believe that the environment is critical and should be one of the key objectives of any project that's takes place.
Okay. And just to take a little turn a little bit. So, I've got kids that are starting to grow up and they think about staying in the area, but they can't afford to. Like, they can't afford to live in Tiny. Do you have any plans to make it easier for first-time buyers and younger buyers to come to the area? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's hard for anybody these days to afford a house, never mind
Yeah.
young people. I
Yeah.
think even now with the taxes going up over 35% in the last 4 years alone, has put and the gas prices, thanks to our president to the south and all the other things that are going on with the tariffs. But I think affordability is something that's going to be a huge issue no matter what. I feel sorry for our young people today. I'm not sure what, as council, we can do to change that. I mean, this is a sort of a cottage community, and the prices are expensive. I don't know if you've tried to rent a cottage up here. It's not cheap, and
No.
so to be honest, I'm not sure where we would go with that.
Okay. And there's been some talk about council transparency in meetings, and there was a time when the meetings were held, the council meetings were in the evening, they moved them back to the days. What are your thoughts on that and allowing the ratepayers to participate?
Well, honestly, I don't believe that council meetings are where we should be having these kind of delegations. I think that we need to set up a separate um, uh, discussion um, with venue so that if somebody has a concern, they can bring it to the council uh, aside from the meetings. Or if it's a major issue, then we should be holding a town hall to discuss these things. Because these things take a two-way discussion, and you can't do that at a council meeting. Council meetings are one-way discussions, and it's frustrating, I think, to the public to go in and they can make their case, but then they can say no more. They can't discuss it. They can't get any responses. I know myself. I've made more delegations to the point where I gave up. It
Mhm.
was a waste of time making a delegation to this current council. So, as far as I'm concerned, there needs to be a separate thing. I mean, we have people coming in with complaints about their incorrect billings and being billed by the fire department for 911 calls. These shouldn't be handled in a council meeting. There should be a separate arbitration set up so that people can plead their case in front of the council or councilors. I'm not sure exactly how that will be set up, but I know when I worked with Go Transit, we had an arbitration process so that if an employee had an issue, they could come in and complain, then it would be heard by one of the directors of the company. So I think a similar thing could be set up here, where if there is a problem that someone's having with that's outside of the courts, then it should be something that's handled separately. But I
Okay.
mean, council meetings aren't really the place to for discussion. So
Okay, thanks. You touched on it earlier about the taxes and the tax increase and fiscal responsibility. What are your thoughts on uh, where we go from here? We,
yeah, that's to me that's a real sore point. I've written so many letters to council on the budget, and the fact that we've been running $2 million surpluses each year. How can you have a $2 million surplus? Then obviously you didn't need that money in the first place. If there's
Mhm.
$2 million left at the end of the year, which is over a 5% tax increase. So I think, to be honest with you, we need a separate finance and audit committee to be set up that has public representation and that has people that really know finance and can sit down and review these things that are going on. The budget should be done on a monthly basis. It shouldn't be done where they put out a quarterly report and it compares what they've spent to date versus what they have in the budget. I mean, that
Mhm.
to me means nothing. And then they wait till the end of the year and they say when they're doing their budget calculations that that they don't know how much they're going to spend this year or what the surplus will be. But I could have told them last year what the surplus was going to be. I didn't know it was
Mhm.
going to be 2 million, but I knew it was going to be over 1 million. Uh, Yet they go to council and say, "Oh, we're going to put $300,000 in as a surplus from last year." And do they use that surplus to reduce the taxes the following year? No, they just throw it into the reserve funds. So I mean, there's a lot that needs to be done to take hold of that whole financial operation in there. I don't know where their heads are at half the time.
And if this has come up of late, what's your thoughts on debt financing and even the bigger idea of referendums and or yes, I guess referendums. If there's some people have said that if the township is going to borrow over X amount, $5 million, if it wasn't in the election, it should be put to a referendum. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think there should be any need for referendums, to be honest with you. I think that if it's not in the budget, it shouldn't be spent. And if the
But with debt financing, you can spend it. You're just saying we're going to build this, we're going to put it in the budget this year, and it passes. We're going to go into debt $35 million. The budget passes by the council.
oh, well, I see what you mean. If my finance committee does its job, uh, there won't be any increase in the taxes over the cost of living. So I don't think they can actually do that. Um, I don't know why there wasn't I mean, they've known about this need for a building expansion at Palm Beach for over 20 years. Why they hadn't put away a fund to pay for this, I don't know. It boggles the mind. Uh, but to turn around and say, no, we're going to go out and use our credit card and spend $30 million, I don't think I don't think that's going over well with the population, and that's pretty obvious with the number of stop the build signs you've seen all across the township. So no, there has to be a control mechanism so that that can't happen. Uh, I don't know if what a referendum will do, because obviously, if they're talking about spending that kind of money, nobody's going to be in favor of it.
Well, I guess we can have a referendum or binding referendums. Obviously, if it's binding, they can't spend the money. They just won't be allowed to.
Yeah.
Again, it depends how it works. So there's two ways of getting taxes. There's from residents and then there's from businesses. And Tiny is majority of residential. What are your thoughts on increasing the commercial or that side of the tax base in Tiny Township? So like the airport, which is sort of a cost really, but people
Yeah.
do pay rent there.
Well, there is land out there that could be, I guess, uh, used for development of industries that support the aviation uh, uh, industry itself. Um, and I'm sure that there are other industries that don't rely on transportation and other things that could. I do believe that we need to look at other forms of revenue um, to offset the tax costs from the residents. Uh, and I would think probably one of my first recommendations would be to set up a task force to look at revenue generation and how it would be handled. I mean, for example, you've got this whole issue with the short-term rentals. Again, it's costing the taxpayers money just because the bylaw is so restrictive. And if the bylaw had been less restrictive and put in a more as I say, we've got 300 potential spots we can uh, that they formed the budget on. Yet they've only got like 140 people signed up. So that's why it's costing us money. So if we can come up with a thing that works good for our residents and also generates a little revenue for the township, I don't see why we don't do that. But
Hmm.
that's just a small example of how that
Sure.
might be looked at. But
Okay.
I do think that there are opportunities that we should be exploring.
Okay, that's great. So we're kind of at the 20-minute mark. So is there any, I'll give you the chance now just to, say anything you haven't said, recap what you want, and just sort of leave the voters with your thoughts.
Yeah, I think that we've got in 2022, the current council was elected. We had 19,000 potential voters, and only 30% of those people showed up at the
Mhm.
polls. Uh, the council got the authority to run the council. And I think we have to basically accept the fact that we were the ones that voted them in. Not that we individually voted them in, but we were the ones that put them in power, and now we have the ability to take them out of power. So I think that's where we sit right now. We need a council that's progressive, that's responsive to community needs, responsive to the residents' needs, uh, and can give us the kind of leadership that we require to get us through these multitude of issues. Can't believe the number of issues as I go through my website and the things I've been developing. The number of issues is ridiculous for such a small township. Uh, and I think that with the online voting this year, I think it's critical that everybody get out and do their civic duty and vote. You can do it online. It's going to be a lot easier for people, especially the seasonal residents who
Mhm.
aren't really up here when the election takes place. Um, and I think that also they should be visiting the TTRA website on a regular basis to see who the candidates are. The final list hasn't been completed as yet, but become aware of what's going on, who's running for what, and why they're running for what they're running for. Uh,
Mhm.
as far as I'm concerned, once my website's done, I don't want to bother people in the summer with election issues.
Yeah.
So I plan to try and meet with as many of the community associations as I can over the month of September anyway, and early October to meet face to face to discuss what their specific issues are and what I can do to make sure that those are front and center at the new council meeting. Um, I guess that's about all I have to say. And I'd like to thank Eric and Steve for giving me the opportunity to put a face to the name and to speak to their viewers. So, thank you, Steve.
Well, thank you, Chuck. We appreciate you taking the time to chat with us, and I wish you all the best in the upcoming election.
Thanks very much.
All right.